Welcome to this week's edition of Crimepedia. I'm your host this week. I am Cherry, and with me I have the man of the map. It is my co-host, the lovely Morgan. Hello.
Hello, the man of the
Map King, you are.
I love map.
You do, and you've got me liking map. You got me busy with maps. So this week, our episode is probably not something that not probably that most people in America will know. It's quite a high profile case here in the UK, but possibly the details of the case aren't as well known as they might be. We are going to be talking about the death of a guy called Stuart Lubbock, and he was attending a party and was found dead in the swimming pool. And so this is the investigation into Stuart Lubbock's death. On the 31st of March 2001, in the early hours, emergency services received a call that a body had been found in a swimming pool at a party in a house in Roydon in Essex. The emergency service operator soon realised that this would be no ordinary call for help. The address was that of a British icon, a household name and a much-loved superstar, Michael Barrymore. The body was that of Stuart Lubbock. He had sustained horrific injuries, which police later found to be the result of a serious sexual attack. How did he come to be at Barrymore's party, and what happened to him? This is Crimepedia, and this is the investigation into the death of Stuart Lubbock. So Michael Kieran Parker, who is actually known by his stage name Michael Barrymore, is a British actor. So he's in comedian. Really, he's a comedian. It's sort of a television presenter. He did like a lot of game shows, family game shows, and did the shows that he did were things like Strike It Lucky, which was a game show, and then they did My Kind of People. So he went to like a shopping centre. They set up this huge stage, and they got people to come up on stage and do silly things. And he was he was really, really in the public eye when I was growing up, and he was kind of a family entertainer. He was very funny, a little bit risque here and there, and he was like a housewife's favourite, I would say, is that kind of guy. And he used to do this program called Kids Say the Funniest Things, which is one of my favourite programs growing up, because it's always good when adults interview small children, because you never know what they're going to come out with, and you can sort of word questions that you can get a bit of information out of them that the parents are going to be cringing, thinking, oh, please don't mention that, please don't say that. And he used to do it all the time. He used to get all sorts of information out. It was a really funny show. So he was a really like a favourite TV presenter, I'd say. And he was one of the highest paid stars on British television. He also starred in the Spice Girls film. So he was, I think he was called Step Up, Mr. Step, that was it, Mr. Step.
Mr. Step?
Yeah, and he was in Spice World, the movie, as the choreographer or like the dance teacher or something. He was called Mr. Step. So he was always quite like a camp kind of guy. He was always very funny, and he was, I would say it was a bit camp. And he used to have this catchphrase called "Alright." So he used to go "Alright." And that was just, instead of all right, that was all right. And that was his catchphrase. So as soon as he would make his entrance, he'd be like, all right. And it was just one of those things. Everybody, if people saw him in the street, they'd go, all right, Barrymore. And, it's just bizarre, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
He also was a redcoat at Butlins. I don't suppose you have Butlins over there, but it's like a
No.
holiday camp kind of place. So like you go there and it's a family entertainment place where you'd have like these people called the redcoats, which were I don't know how to explain it. The redcoats are like the entertainers of the holiday park. So you'd go there like on a holiday for a week or a long weekend, and there's a park that you can play in, and they'll have the shows that the redcoats put on. And we have so Butlins is like iconic here. There's lots of different places of
Yeah.
Butlins, and it's like it's a family thing. But now they do like adult weekends at Butlins, so it's only adults, and you'll have like
Yeah.
80s,
Yeah.
or they'll do like 90s weekend or something like that, and it's all like music from the 90s and stuff like that. So he was a redcoat, which was synonymous with Butlins back in the day, and he was in the West End. He was in theatre, so he was a really sort of well-known British guy. He married a lady. She was a dancer, and a friend of his from when he was a kid, a lady called Cheryl St. Clair, and he married her in 1974, and she became his manager and kind of like the mastermind behind him. And he did this show called Blankety Blank, which is where you read out like a maybe like a common phrase or something, but you leave a word out, and the people on the game show have to guess what the word is. And it's always like something silly, like they would say something totally ridiculous and not get it, and they'd take the mickey out of them and that kind of stuff. But that
Yeah.
was a really like Saturday night primetime TV show that everybody used to watch. um in 1995, he was still very famous. So, kind of like the middle of the big fame of Barrymore. He went to
Yeah.
a pub called the White Swan, which is a gay pub in the East End of London. And there was a guy there that's a drag queen. So it's known for having drag queens singing. This guy was up on stage. He was singing, doing his act. And all of a sudden, he said the crowd just went absolutely crazy. And he was like, I don't really understand why they're laughing so much and cheering so much. I'm not actually that funny, which I thought was really sweet, bless him.
Yeah.
And he said he turned around and Michael Barrymore was stood behind him on stage. And he said, like, this is crazy. Like, why is Michael Barrymore on stage here in a gay pub in the east of London? What's going on? And Barrymore said to him, okay, what have you got on your tape? What songs have you got? So he was like, oh, okay, I've got some. And they started singing together. So this guy was like,
Yeah.
wow, Barrymore's on stage with me. This is amazing. So they start singing. And then all of a sudden, he takes off his wedding ring, he throws it on the floor, and he says, I'm gay tonight. Like he sings, start spreading the news. The Frank Sinatra song, start spreading the news.
Yeah.
I'm gay today. And he takes off his ring and throws it on the floor. And so all the men in this pub have like, yeah, and go like screaming and out amazing. Well, all of a sudden, the people at the Sun newspaper, which is obviously a huge newspaper here, the phone started going crazy. And there's all these people ringing up saying, you'll never guess what's just happened in the White Swan, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it's front page news the next day that Barrymore's come out as gay, which at the time was really shocking because he was
Yeah.
married. They'd been married for a long time, and he was like this family man. And he used to do this program called like My Kind of People. And all of a sudden, you've got these headlines saying, but is he our kind of people? Which is, I think, really mean
Yeah.
because, but yeah, he'd come out as gay, shocked the nation. Looking back at it now, because he's so camp, and because you kind of look at it and think, well, how did we not guess that he was gay? Because he
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
is like really camp, but it's just one of those things, and nobody really knew. So in November of that year, he attended the National Television Awards, and at an after show party there, he was on a late night radio show, and he publicly then declared on this late night radio show that he was gay and no longer wanted to live a lie. And then following that, he obviously split with his wife. Now, she was told
Mhm.
that, or she's reported since, she did an autobiography, and she's reported since that she had no idea that he was gay until that radio show.
Oh.
So they,
Okay.
yeah, so they sort of had a few reunions in and out, and they sort of got back together and then split again, got back together and split again. And they divorced eventually in 1997. And she went on to publish this autobiography, like I said, and it was called Catch a Falling Star. And this came out in 2002. And this contained loads of details about this split between her and Michael Barrymore. And it was quite acrimonious. And following this, they had no contact with each other whatsoever. So this kind of love story and this thing that we knew, she was kind of like the wronged woman because he's come out as gay and, she's poor old Cheryl. She had no idea. She stopped being his manager, stopped being his agent. And he then later suggested in his autobiography that was published later in 2006 that she was actually a control freak who controlled his every move, which then she's his manager. So she kind of has to control him a little bit, doesn't she? He then said that she created the character that was Michael Barrymore. And
Okay.
this drove him to alcohol and drugs and gay affairs.
Yep. Okay.
So it's her fault. So he blamed her.
That's okay.
So he did say that he had an alcohol addiction and that he was in recovery from that. But one of the most important things of this thing between him and Cheryl is that she actually came out and said that apparently, he had paid off his own mum to keep quiet about his sexuality so that he could marry her. And he'd been in like an 18-month long relationship with another man before he was with Cheryl. And
Mhm.
But Cheryl did say that they had a full marriage. I'm guessing by full marriage they mean like sexually a full marriage. And that the rumors about his sexuality became more rampant. And then she said that she was curious and wondered whether or not these rumors were real. And she said in her autobiography that the divorce was actually because of his alcoholism, and claimed that when he was drinking, he was very violent and he attacked her on multiple occasions. She says that he grabbed her at some point, he ripped her phone off the wall, he tore one of her earrings out, and he denied all of this. So he completely denied all of this. Unfortunately, on the 1st of April in 2005, Cheryl died of lung cancer. She was only 55, and she died then. So you can't really, obviously, you can't interview her anymore on the situation. So we've only really got her revelations at the time, if that makes sense. So there are questionings of, is this because she was the bittered wrong woman that she's coming out and saying all this stuff? Because at the time it's obviously a hurtful thing that you're getting divorced if you don't want to be divorced. And it's very public. So it's quite a hurtful thing, isn't it? So there are people, I've read that people have said, well, she was just saying that because she was angry with him. This has got absolutely no substance whatsoever. He's denied it all anyway. So it was kind of a bitter thing going on in the press. And you know what the press are like. They absolutely love this kind of stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So on to the guy called, so that was a sort of a bit of a background on Michael Barrymore. So you know who the character is and sort of how famous he is here in the UK. Pretty much I would think most people in England of an adult age would know who he is if you mentioned his name. Now, Stuart Lubbock was a father of two. He was divorced and he worked as a supervisor in a wholesale butchery factory. He was formerly married to a lady called Sue. They married very young, but then they were divorced. He's been described as a fun, outgoing ladies' man. Got a lot of attention from women. Quite good looking guy. Clean cut, I would say. Quite good looking. No stranger to attention from the ladies. And Sue has reportedly said in a documentary that I watched on Channel 4 that she believed he had a lot of friends with benefits.
Okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
he was quite a bit of a ladies' man. He was a good looking chap. If you look at the pictures, he is a good looking chap. Now, on the 30th of March in 2001, Michael Barrymore and his partner of the time, Jonathan Kennick, were eating dinner at an Indian restaurant in a place called Broxbourne in Essex. Now, around 1 a.m., they go to a nightclub called the Millennium Nightclub, which is in Harlow in Essex. Now, Stuart's older brother, Kevin, was out with Stuart at Millennium, which is where they had met Michael Barrymore. Stuart had been to the bathroom, came out and said to his brother, "Oh my God, you'll never guess who's in the bathroom. Like Michael Barrymore's in the bathroom." And he's like, "What?
Yeah.
The Michael Barrymore?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's in the bathroom." So Michael Barrymore comes out and Kevin goes up to him, shakes his hand and gives him that, "What?" And he's like, "What?" And they get chatting. And then a woman
Yeah.
approaches Stuart, whispers in his ear, and then Stuart's like, "Okay, I'm coming," and sort of says goodbye to his brother and disappears. So Stuart's brother's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, so you're leaving me on my own then? You're off." So he
Okay.
goes,
Yeah.
and he just assumed that Stuart had got lucky with this woman and had left. Now, at 2:30 that morning, a taxi driver called Keith Miller reportedly picked up Michael Barrymore and 3 other people. He picked up
Okay.
2 men and a woman. Now, one of the men was Stuart. The other man was a bin man called Justin Merritt, and the woman was his sister Kylie Merritt. Now, Michael Barrymore reportedly was quite drunk.
A bin man as
A
in
refuse
trash
a
collector?
trash collector, yeah, yeah. So
Oh, okay.
he's a bin man.
So
Um,
someone that I wouldn't expect to be hanging out with a celebrity like Barrymore.
exactly. And so him and his
Okay.
sister are in the taxi. The taxi driver says that Michael Barrymore was quite drunk and he was sort of quite quiet most of the trip. And he did lean forward and say something to him, but I can't remember what he actually said, but it was nothing like of major importance.
Yep.
Keith dropped them all back to Barrymore's house. Now at 2:47, the party is reportedly underway at his house, and there's 8 people at the party. Now we know this from police reports. There were 8 people at the party. There was Michael and his lover Jonathan Kenny. He was a former drag queen in Blackpool. They're Dustman Justin Merritt and his sister Kylie. Now Justin had
Okay.
reportedly told the court when this went to court that Stuart was high on drink and drugs at the time of the party. There was a lot of drugs there, and there's a lot of people that have reported that were at the party that have reported that there were drugs there. Now, Kylie, his sister, reportedly told Epping Coroner's Court that Michael Barrymore had been offering people cocaine at the party. However, he denies this. He denies that there's any cocaine at the party. She also
Okay.
said Stuart was in good spirits. He was laughing. He was jumping around in the pool. He was in the hot tub. And she also told the court that Michael Barrymore had been rubbing cocaine into Stuart's gums at the party. The court asked if Stuart was willing, and she replied that he just kept trying to pull his face away. So, not unwilling, but also not fully willing.
Yeah.
Now, there was.
Okay, so real quick,
Mm.
going back. So Michael Barrymore did not know Justin and Kylie before this evening, correct?
So he knew Justin, but he knew of Justin. They were friends, but he didn't know Kylie.
Okay. Okay.
That was just his sister. Now, also, there was a girl called Claire Jones there who had attended the party with her friend Kelly Campbell after bumping into Michael at the nightclub. So she had literally bumped into him and he had invited her back to the house for the party. And so she had gone with her friends. Now, they were 17 at the time. So they were
Oh,
quite young. And
yeah.
so not really old enough to be in the club, to be honest, not old enough to drink, certainly. So he invited them back, and she reportedly told the police that she had seen Michael Barrymore getting changed before the police had actually arrived on scene after the incident.
Okay. One other question real quick before we move on. Which was it one of these women that whispered into Stuart's ear?
They believe it was Kylie. So believe that it was
They believe it's
Kylie. Yeah,
Kylie.
Kylie was the one that whispered into Stuart's ear to invite him back to the party. It's
Okay.
believed
All
to
right.
have been her. Now,
Okay.
also at the party was Michael's neighbour, a guy called James Futers, who was a chef, and they'd sort of met on and played cards down the pub on previous occasions. And he was also in the Millennium nightclub prior to the house party. The last person that was there was a guy called Simon Shaw. So we've got the men that are there. You've got Simon Shaw. He is just a friend of Barrymore's. You've got Simon, you've got James, you've then got Michael and his partner, and then you've got Justin. So there's 5 men, and then there's Kylie, there's Claire, and there's Kelly. 5 men, 3 women at the party. Now,
Okay.
Simon was a friend of Michael's and he was being shown around the house reportedly. This is one of the things that I find is it's a bit up and down with this. It doesn't really make sense. And so Simon's reportedly said that he was being shown around the house by Michael at the time that they found Stuart in the pool at around 5 a.m. Now, they got back to the party. They were back to the house, at around 2:30, 2:45.
Yeah.
And so he was just showing him around the house. But subsequently,
3 hours later, they're
this
showing
is
around the house.
yeah, exactly. This is what I was thinking. The timeline doesn't really add up there. And I'll read to you what Michael Barrymore said happened a bit later on. And it doesn't make sense that he doesn't say that he was showing them around. So something there is not quite right. And I can't seem to find anything there that actually makes sense. One person saying one thing, the other saying something else. Now, according to multiple reports about this, Barrymore told police that he found Stuart's body between 4:30 and 4:45. Now, neighbours have reported hearing screaming at around 5 a.m. However,
Okay.
An ambulance wasn't called until 5:46 a.m.
Oh, okay.
So Barrymore's told the police he found him between 4:30 and 4:45. So okay, if you find him, you start doing CPR on him. Okay, that could be what, 10 minutes, but surely you would phone for the ambulance as soon as you find him. Somebody needs to phone straight away.
Yeah.
Well, nobody phones until 5:46, which is
Mm,
something we'll talk about later that I find very strange. Now,
yeah.
this at 5:46, a call was made to emergency services, and this is the transcript, the exact transcript from the call. The operator says, "Where do you want the ambulance to come, please?" The caller says, "Number 4 Beaumont Park Drive, Roydon in Essex." The operator says, "Right, we'll get someone out for you." The caller says, "A geezer's drowned in the pool." The opera says, "Right, sorry." And he says, "A fella has drowned in the pool." So she says, "Are they still in the water?" He says, "No, we've got them out." The operator says, "You've got them out." He says, "There's a party going on and someone's just gone out and found him. I tell you what, mate, the first time I've been out in 4 effing years. I have my kids every weekend and effing hell, you don't expect it, do you?"
Br- Okay.
So he's more concerned that it's his first night out in ages and there's been a murder or there's been a death.
Jesus.
I know, priorities. So the other thing that is very strange is that Michael Barrymore then left the property before the ambulance arrived.
Oh, that's
So
not good.
no, and his lawyers have reportedly said that this was so that he could avoid any media attention.
That's no.
That
No,
now
no,
that
no.
doesn't make sense to me. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-mm. No. No, it doesn't.
No. Okay. Now, when the paramedics arrive at the scene, Stuart's body is lying by the side of the pool. Now, I'll post some pictures on our Instagram of the pool area. There's a pool and then there's a jacuzzi that's very close to the
Yeah.
pool. And at 8:23 a.m. that morning, Stuart was pronounced dead at the hospital.
Yeah,
So
I'm
yeah,
looking at the pool. It's not a big area.
no, it's not a huge
Um,
area, and it's not
the
right out the
pool
way
is
either. It's very close to the house.
yeah, it's a long pool,
Mm.
but a not a very wide pool.
No,
Like, if you were to jump from one side, you might be pretty close to be able to jump from one side to the other, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's not a huge pool. No, it's not. I would say it's more like a bit
Um,
of a status thing, really, than an actual proper. Like it's not like a pool that you do proper lengths in. It doesn't look like a
yeah, no,
Olympic
yeah,
sized
yeah.
swimming pool.
I'm curious, is is the pool heated? Because this is a really weird time to be out at least swimming. I just see the jacuzzi, the hot tub, whatever,
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
this time of year, but
yeah,
the end of March, that's pretty chilly
yeah.
like, going out for a dip in the pool.
That's right. But obviously, don't forget they're all on drugs, or they're
Yeah, that's true.
reportedly on drugs, and you know, when you've been drinking and things like that, you don't really you know the house is like it's almost like it's like a bungalow kind of house, and then it's quite a large house. It is a big house. It's like a two I think it was like a £2 million house. It's quite big. And you kind of come out the back and you've got the pool, and then like sort of an off cut of the pool isn't exactly rectangular. There's like a top corner that's sort of incorporates where the hot tub kind of comes. It's built up out of the floor, a
Yeah.
tiled like hot tub kind of thing. So it's a fair size, but not humongous. No, I think you're right. You could sort of jump from one side to the other.
And who did you say made the 911 call, or
So there's no
the was
reports
it
as to say who. It was a man. It was a man that made the call, but I couldn't find anything to say who actually made the call.
I said 911, 999.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Let me see, and he said what'd he say about he said,
So he said we've got a geezer's drowned in the pool, which is like a London Essex way
yeah,
for man. So a geezer's drowned in the pool, a fella's drowned in the pool. She then says, "Are they still in the water?" He says, "No, we've got them out." The operator says, "You've got them out." He says, "There's a party going on, and someone's just gone out and found him." And then he says, "Whew, I tell you what, mate, the first time I've been out in 4 effing years. I've had my kids every weekend, and oh, effing hell, you don't
okay.
expect this." If you go online, you can actually get that. You can actually you can listen to you can listen to
So
the whole
me
call.
so I wonder if it's just, like, someone like Justin Merritt. They've
Is
had
it
2 kids.
Yeah, Possibly.
You know,
Yeah, possibly.
we could probably figure it out based off
Yeah, we
that
yeah.
statement.
We probably could. I mean, I've got who jumped in the pool to get him out, actually. Let me just grab that. It was oh,
I think I saw someone that was Simon that jumped in the
It was
pool.
Simon, and I've written it down here somewhere. It was Simon. We'll get to that, but yeah, Simon is Simon. I think it might have been the other guy. Um, it was his partner. I think it might have been his partner that jumped in with him. So we'll see.
Okay.
So the
And Simon was the one who also said that he was being shown the house at
yes, yeah,
5:30 in the morning.
yeah.
Okay.
So Simon Shaw and James Futers, they were the chefs. So, sorry, James is the chef, and then you've got Simon, who's just a friend, is a friend of his. So they were being shown the house together at the same time when they discovered Stuart in the pool. Now,
Okay.
the interest in well, it's not really interesting. So this is just a little warning for you. The post-mortem report is very, very horrific. It's a very detailed, obviously, report that it describes the injuries that Stuart sustained, because this isn't just a clear case of Stuart fell in the pool and drowned. There are issues with his cause of death. Now, when the paramedics came and tried to revive Stuart, they then took him off to hospital and he was pronounced dead in the hospital.
Mhm.
When the post mortem was carried out, there were findings that were inconclusive, and it opened up a whole new part of this investigation. So, just a warning for you, obviously, usually we wouldn't go into much detail about this kind of thing, but for this case, unfortunately, it's going to be necessary to explain to you why this case is what it is. So the first post-mortem was carried out by a doctor, a forensic pathologist called Dr. Michael Heath. And he found that there were small abrasions and injuries on Stuart's bodies, but this is consistent with him being pulled out of the swimming pool. Now, obviously, he is a dead weight in the swimming pool, and he was pulled out by two people, obviously pulled onto the side, and they believe that those abrasions are from that. There were no injuries to show any restraint, so there was nothing to show that he had been held down or he was restrained in any way. And his opinion at the time was that no third party was involved in Stuart's actual death. So his death, he decided, was a result of drowning. However, there was a lot of blood on the cloth that Stuart had been wrapped in to go to hospital. And
Okay.
this was particularly around the pelvic region, which showed extensive hemorrhaging from his back passage. So there was a clear dilation of the anal canal. There were horrific injuries to him. There was abrasions, there was bruising, and there was tearing of the anal wall. So he actually described the injuries that Stuart had sustained as horrific.
Yeah.
Now, there was a second post-mortem carried out because they they disputed the fact that Stuart had died from drowning. Because of these injuries that he'd sustained, there was a second post-mortem carried out, and this was carried out by a guy called Professor Chris Milroy. He wasn't convinced that drowning was the cause of Stuart's death. Obviously, Stuart was in the water, he was found in the water, but in the second post-mortem, he said that water can hamper investigations in terms of trace evidence. And he also found petechiae present. Now, that, if you don't know, is
Mm.
like pinhead hemorrhages, which occur in the eyes. And this can occur for lots of different
Oh,
reasons.
strangulation.
But yes, but neck compression is one of them.
Yeah.
No, that's not a simple drowning injury.
Hmm.
So obviously now this case is now changing from a simple falling in the pool to now being a possible murder. Now, he said that Stuart, looking at Stuart's injuries, he had suffered a very violent and very, very serious sexual assault. He says that in his bloodstream, he had MDMA in his bloodstream. He also had cocaine, and he was
Okay.
3 times over the legal drinking limit. Now, we already know from other
Mm.
people's witness statements that they had seen him with cocaine, they had seen him drinking. We already know that
Yeah.
he had been drinking. Now, Ian Calder, who is the third pathologist on this case that carried out the third autopsy, he's also an expert in drowning. And he said that Stuart's lungs didn't show the usual signs of drowning. He said that sometimes when people drown, the lungs, because it's all filled with water, would overlap each other
Mhm.
because they're full.
Yeah.
There was no signs of that. He did say that obviously with chest compressions, this can empty out the lungs. Also, there was no froth in the lungs, but that can also be emptied out from the chest compressions that would have been done. And he
Mhm.
said, in his expert opinion, now he's an expert in drowning, he said, in his expert opinion, this was not adding up to being a drowning incident.
Hmm.
He said that he can't rule out the fact that he possibly was dead before he even went into the water,
Into water.
which
Yeah.
indicates a cover up. Now, he also says, unfortunately, he also says that Stuart would have been in a significant amount of pain with these injuries. And this would not have been caused by consensual intercourse. So this would be a non consensual act. It would have been a very painful
Mm.
act.
So you would imagine it wouldn't have been necessarily. It would have been quiet. It wouldn't have been a quiet
No,
attack,
no. Not by what they're saying in the autopsy reports.
which would indicate to me that if this occurred even outside,
Mhm.
neighbors would you would think neighbors would hear something.
Yeah. I don't know how close. I'll have to have a look at an aerial view. I don't know how close they were to the neighbours were to his house. But I would have thought that, I mean, they obviously heard screams at around 5 o'clock. So
Mhm.
they obviously heard those. So yeah, it doesn't I would think that if somebody was having an attack like that, I don't see what nobody would understand what it was, or nobody would be concerned, especially the
Yeah.
other people in the house. There was 8 people in that house.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
there was a coroner's court inquest into Stuart's death. And obviously, the 8 witnesses had to go to court to give their evidence. And it wasn't a trial, it was just an inquest into how Stuart died, ready for the coroner to prepare a file. Now, Michael Barrymore denied having drugs at the party. He refused to answer any questions about drugs with the police. He also denied rubbing the cocaine into Stuart's gums.
Mhm.
And this is interesting. He reportedly said that he couldn't swim, which is why he didn't jump in the pool and pull out Stuart.
Yeah.
He found him. I'll go through what actually happened when he tell in a second. But he says that he didn't jump in the pool to save Stuart when he found him because he couldn't swim. Now, the issue that we have with this is that his wife, ex-wife Cheryl, she gave details to police because she was obviously alive at the time. She gave details to police saying that he can actually swim, and she could give details of a handful of other people that could also confirm that he can.
Yeah.
So this is the first incident where Michael Barrymore they're kind of calling into question what he's saying, because he's denied the fact that he could even swim, but there's
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that actually confirm that he can. Now
Why
the
would you have a pool if you
coroner,
can't swim?
well, that's the other thing. Why would you have a swimming pool if
Yeah.
you can't swim? Hot tub, I get, but maybe it just came from the
Yeah, but
house. Maybe just like the house.
well, yeah, that's true.
Now, the coroner reported that not one of the witnesses in the coroner's court that gave evidence had given a reason as to how Stuart died. Not one of them had come forward to say, they'd not been very forthcoming with what they were telling the court. He made it very clear that the patchy memories of the partygoers had literally added nothing to the case.
Mhm.
The verdict was then ruled as an open case, and this means that the coroner can't come to a decision about what actually happened. So they can't give a reason for him dying in the inquest because there's nothing really. We know what injuries he had. We know that he had cocaine in his system. We know that he had drugs in his system. We know that he was found in the pool, but it's into question as to whether he was dead before he went into the pool or whether he died in the pool. But looking at the post-mortem, all 3 of them are now saying they don't believe that he did drown. Now, Michael Barrymore was interviewed on a program called The Tonight Program, and he was obviously looking very remorseful. He was quiet, which is not the sort of Michael Barrymore that everybody knew. He was always very loud and very like not life of the party. That's an awful phrase to use, but he was very,
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Now he reports his sort of detailing of the night is that he reports that he and some friends had all decided to go back to his house, have a bit of a party. Some people got invited back that he didn't know very well, but he was fine with that. They all decided to go into the jacuzzi, so him and a couple of friends. He gave the friends some shorts to get in. Now, I'm thinking, obviously, he's saying he's given them shorts. So we're talking about the men. They were going in the jacuzzi here. Now, this sort of correlates with James and Simon, who were then being shown around the house, they said earlier. But
Mhm.
Michael Barrymore has said they were going into the jacuzzi. He said he walked out of the house, was walking to the jacuzzi. As he looked down into the deep end of the pool, he saw Stuart face up wearing just his pants under the water. So he freaked out, ran back into the house to get John, who was his partner, who was actually a lifesaver. So I don't know what sort of credentials he had for that, but he said he was a
Mhm.
lifesaver.
Yeah.
And then Simon and James jumped into the pool and fished out Stuart. Now, he said it was his house, it was his pool. He didn't know Stuart, so he wasn't friends with Stuart. He didn't know him, but he felt responsible for his death. The papers, obviously, like I said to you, had gone absolutely crazy with this. And because Michael Barrymore had come out as gay, the front pages of the newspapers had said it was a gay orgy. It was this huge sex
Yeah.
party with loads of drugs, and it was a drug fueled sex binge. And
Yep.
he said that there was no sex orgy whatsoever at the house that night. He said there was nothing like that going on that he knew of. And I thought it was interesting that he put that in there, that I know of. He said there was nothing like that. And he said he had no idea what had happened to Stuart, though he felt guilty for him dying on his property. Now, he also, in 2002, in September, he spoke to Good Morning, it's Good Morning Britain, Good Morning Television. A presenter called Fiona Phillips interviewed him. And he came forward to say that solicitors had located a nurse who had worked on Stuart in the A&E department and said that he had no injuries whatsoever on his body when he got to A&E.
Okay.
So his solicitors are saying that those injuries that Stuart had been caused in the hospital.
Mm, how?
Well, one of the things that they tried to say was that when the paramedics had used a rectal thermometer to take Stuart's temperature,
Mm,
that had caused these injuries.
no. No,
Now,
no, no, no,
no,
no.
if you've ever seen a rectal thermometer, it's rounded at the end, it's very thin, it's a smooth instrument, and this would not have caused the tearing and the
Mhm.
injuries that Stuart had sustained. Now, I mean, the guys that did the post-mortem, the pathologists, all just literally not laughed it off, but like they were incredulous. Like this would not be something that caused this. I mean, I read something else that his solicitor said that perhaps he had slipped and hit himself on the side of the pool and that had caused the problems. Again,
Yeah.
you don't get horrific internal injuries from something like slipping and, on the side of a pool. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
on the 13th of January, following this, Essex Police then issued a statement saying that because of this additional line of inquiry from Michael Barrymore, they were now launching an investigation into the injuries that were caused at the Princess Alexandra Hospital. Stuart's family had reportedly said that they wanted every line of inquiry followed up, so as you would. But by the end of that year, the police investigation has said that they were happy that the injuries occurred before Stuart had died, and that it wasn't anything to do with the post-mortem. It wasn't anything to do with the hospital. And one of the pathologists, I think it was let me just grab his name. I think it's the first guy. It was where is he? There we are, coroner. So he said that it was Professor Chris Milroy. He said that there is no way that those injuries would have been sustained at a post-mortem, because when a body is deceased, they don't bruise and they don't bleed anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the
That's
bruising
correct,
wouldn't have
yeah.
happened after Stuart was at the hospital.
Because
Now,
blood is not flowing. Yeah.
exactly, there's no heartbeat. There's nothing to push the blood around the body. Now, on the 15th of September 2003, Michael Barrymore made his comeback to the entertainment world in the West End. This wasn't a very comfortable comeback because I think people still felt, not so warm to him anymore, I think. And basically the show was cancelled very, very quickly because it was quite evident that people just weren't interested in the Michael Barrymore that we all knew and loved back in the day, and things were very different now. We also had something in the newspaper that said why, or I think it was, it was Michael Barrymore's lawyers said, why weren't the injuries to Stuart found when the paramedics arrived on scene? And Chris Milroy again said it's very common for a pathologist to find injuries that are not identified by clinicians in a hospital or in a paramedic situation. They are trained to find things that perhaps other medical staff wouldn't necessarily find straight away. So that would explain why these things weren't picked up straight away. ITV then dropped Michael Barrymore from its network, which basically halted his career completely.
Mhm.
And he then moved to New Zealand to start a new life. And we didn't really hear from him, not really again until about 2006. So he sort of
Okay.
disappeared for about a year or so.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Now, he came back to the UK to take part in Celebrity Big Brother. And this was like a huge thing because obviously the last we had heard as public had heard about Michael Barrymore was during these trials. And then he just kind of disappeared and everybody forgot about it. And he came back to take part in Celebrity Big Brother, which at the time was huge here. It was a massive show. It was everybody talked about Celebrity Big Brother then. But the public did begin to kind of warm to him again. They had actually sort of started showing him in Big Brother as a bit of a vulnerable man. And people were like, oh, I just want to give him a hug. And he looks so sad. And sort of it kind of like turned things around a little bit for him. And he came second in, so he was, voted to stay right to the end. And he came out second. Now, Stuart's father was then given the opportunity to meet Michael Barrymore. This was a 1-hour private meeting, and Stuart's dad jumped at the chance. Now, Stuart's dad's a guy called Terry Lubbock, and he has been campaigning ever since Stuart's death to find out what happened to him. He doesn't believe it was a drowning. Stuart's family don't believe it's a drowning. They believe that there's more to this and that somebody in that household, they know what happened, obviously.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Stuart's dad went to meet Michael Barrymore. It was private, so there's nothing reported about what happened. There was a story in the newspapers straight after and pictures of him sat with Michael Barrymore, and they'd taken sort of phrases out of what Stuart's dad had said, saying, oh, he's a lovely man. And he did say, like, he seemed to be a really nice man. I spoke to him for about an hour, but we never really got round to him telling me about Stuart's death. And he didn't really give me any answers as to what happened. He sort of scooted around the thing and was very remorseful and very sad. And he believed that this was a publicity stunt to basically make it look like Michael Barrymore had nothing to hide, make it look like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was the good guy and was going to help with the investigation. And, you know, so then Essex police then announced that they were going to be reinvestigating the case. And on the 14th of June 2007, Essex police arrested Michael Barrymore. They also arrested Jonathan Kenny, which was his partner at the time, and Justin Merritt, who was the former, refuse man at the time. They were all present when Stuart died. They were all there on that night, and they were held for
Mhm.
questioning at South Woodham Ferris police station. Apparently, the police had 18 new leads to go over with them regarding the case. Now, police were given permission to question Barrymore and one of the other men for a further 12 hours because you've only got so long to detain them in custody, but they were given permission by the CPS to detain him for a bit longer and carry on with the interviewing. Now, Barrymore's solicitor is a guy called Henry Brandman, and he confirmed that it was Michael Barrymore that was arrested, but later that day was released on police bail pending further inquiries. His solicitor stated that he had categorically denied all allegations and had not been charged with any offence. So Michael Barrymore walked away, a free man from that investigation. And the police then issued a statement to say that the CPS found that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute for either Stuart's death or his injuries.
Okay.
Now, Terry Lubbock blames well, he doesn't blame the police, but he believes that the scene was mishandled, and this has come up in subsequent interviews. A guy called DCI Stephen Jennings reported that after Stuart's body was found, some individuals had left the property, some individuals had come to the property, and key parts of forensic evidence had disappeared from the house. Now, this is where my questions come in. When the police arrived at the property, all the witnesses have said that it was an accident, and they then treated the scene as an accident. They didn't treat the scene as a potential crime scene.
Oh, okay.
So there was an independent investigation established because obviously something wasn't quite right here.
Mm.
I know exactly what you mean.
Mm.
It's
I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions.
yeah, I have a lot
But
of
but
questions.
but go ahead.
Well, no,
Thinking like I'm trying to put all this together,
yeah.
and there are so many questions I have about this. I mean, I can even say, okay, in a case like this, okay, yeah, they treat it like an accident.
Mm,
I don't understand the harm in immediately, making it, roping everything off
mm,
and
exactly.
investigating,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's strange to me.
It
I'm
is
not
it
yet,
is
though.
strange. I mean, it's a somebody's found dead in the pool. So straight away to me, that's an unexplained death. So I would think straight away
Yeah,
is a crime scene. Not necessarily. It's better to rope it off as a crime scene and be proved wrong than it is to not rope it off and then be proved really wrong.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so this independent investigation was established, and they said that the police on scene did not do their job correctly. The blood found on Stuart's boxer shorts, the towel that he was wrapped in, the robe that was there was not investigated properly. They said that the scene was secured, but not to the standard it should have been. Now, Michael Barrymore's PA was allowed back on the scene after the police had taken their crime scene pictures, or after they'd taken pictures of the scene and videos of the scene. He was allowed back into the house and was not accompanied. So he was seen tidying things up, he was seen putting things away, and there's been a lot of I wouldn't even say speculation. There's been a lot of reports that he moved things and removed things from the scene of Stuart's death. He reports that he was not anywhere near the pool, and the police have said he was nowhere near the pool, but he was inside the house and he wasn't accompanied by anyone. So what was he doing? That's my question. What was he doing being allowed
Yeah.
back into the house?
What is his point there?
Exactly. Now, they also said that when Michael Barrymore left the scene, and I did say to you that it was Kylie that had actually reported seeing Barrymore getting changed, gathering some belongings before he left the scene, before the police arrived. Now, what what was he gathering? He gathered things and left. So obviously he had to get out of there somehow. So
Mhm.
someone's left with him. He's been taken somewhere. Where did he go? Now his neighbor was the chef, was James the chef. So did he go to his neighbor's house? Where did he go? There's nothing. I've not been able to find. I've looked and looked. I've not been able to find anything to say where he went when he left. I know why he went, but not where he went.
I think I thought I saw somewhere
Hmm.
because 'cause I'm kind of looking through this stuff as you tell this.
Yeah.
I feel like he did go over to that James
Yeah, his
Buter's
neighbor, yeah.
home, the neighbor's home, which would make sense
Yeah,
if they're close.
yeah. That was what I would think. He would have gone to a neighbour's home and the neighbour is at his party, so he's gone there. Now,
Mhm.
the police have also reported that this fifth senior investigating officer on the case had reported that he believes that vital evidence was removed from the scene. He believes that in fact Stuart was raped and murdered and possibly thrown in the pool to make it look like it was a drowning.
An accident.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, the things that are missing from the house, police only discovered this after looking back at the photos of the scene. Now, there's a handle from an outhouse shed that was missing. Then they can't find that anywhere. I don't know why particularly they're looking for that because it was missing, but I don't know how they know it was missing. It must have been on the pictures, but then not afterwards. And then
Okay.
the pull thermometer. Now the pull thermometer, I'll put the pictures on our Instagram and our Facebook and stuff. That it's kind of it floats. It's one of those ones that you put in a hot tub, and it's kind of got the long bit on the
Mhm.
bottom. And it's got this fat flat bit on the top, and it floats in the water, so you can keep an eye on what the temperature is. Now, this was on the side of the hot tub in the crime scene pictures. However, it was never located. It had gone when they subsequently went back to the house. Now, the pathologists confirm that the injuries to Stuart were most likely caused by something of that shape. So, a bottle or I don't know, a dildo, a sex toy, something like that had been
Yeah.
had been used, but whatever it was very was very rough and it had caused serious injury to him. And so they said, yes, possibly that could possibly have been what caused it. And bearing in mind that they were out by the pool and that kind of thing. Now, I mean, I've got so many questions on this, so many questions.
Yeah. Ah, it makes okay, there's things that make no sense, like,
Mm,
if you put them together,
mm,
it makes no sense. Like, there had to have been okay, so if he was assaulted with
mm.
I'll call it a foreign object, or let's say, the thermometer, the hot tub thermometer,
Yeah,
that would indicate to me that they that's not something that you do in normal sex play.
no,
That indicates there's how do I put this? There's something demeaning about it, you know?
yeah, yeah. Can I throw
There's
a spanner
something
in the
there's
works
like
now?
okay, go ahead.
Stuart wasn't a gay man.
Okay.
So Stuart's family, the media straight away said that this was a gay orgy. That, like I said to you, the headlines had said that this was a gay orgy, that he had gone back there. He was obviously there with lots of other men. There were 3 women there, but he was there with lots of other men. Now, his family have said that the assumption of him being gay couldn't be more wrong. He was a father, he had an ex-wife, he had obviously had children. He's saying they don't understand why Stuart went back to that house. He didn't know Michael Barrymore. He didn't know any of the people that were there at the party. They think that it was just that it was a celebrity. He was invited back and thought, I'm going because this guy's
Yeah.
famous. And so that is why he's gone. The only reason he's gone back there. Now, they have said that without a doubt, Stuart is definitely not gay. So this wasn't that he went back there for a sexual encounter with guys or this wasn't no. But the thing is the 8 people at the party, everyone's tight-lipped about what actually happened.
Which okay. I'll ask about that later. But yeah, that makes no sense.
No.
I don't think I think he went back A because of celebrity, and I think he went back because of a female.
Mm,
I think it goes back to if it was Kylie who whispered in his ear back
mm,
at the club, I think he went back with her. You know what I mean?
yeah. So the other 2 girls that were there were younger. They were like 17, I think 17 years old, the 2 girls that were there. So there's not
And they didn't
much really said about them or what they
yeah,
were
they
up
didn't come
to.
back until later
That's
because they
right.
would have come, with, Michael's boyfriend because it was because in the first taxi,
Yeah.
it was Michael,
Michael, Kylie, Justin, and
Kylie,
Stuart.
Justin, and Stuart,
Yeah.
and so then in the second one, it would have been
The two guys, Simon, James, Michael,
well,
Mike.
would they have come, or did they come from just from, like,
Well,
James's
I
home?
don't know.
You know what I
They
mean?
were at the Millennium nightclub. They were there prior to the party. So they would have
Okay,
come from Millennium
so
either
then
back
it
to
would have
his
been
house next door or whatever.
so then we have Jonathan,
Mhm.
James, Simon,
Yeah.
and the two 17-year-olds.
Yeah, and there's nothing saying that the girls they were invited back. There's nothing to say they went in a taxi with them. So whether they arrived of their own accord a bit later, I don't know. But there's not much said. I mean,
Okay.
the thing that I don't understand with this is that nobody really seems to be saying anything. All that they've said is that Stuart was having a good time. He was in high spirits. Everyone was having a good time.
Well, yeah, that says nothing.
No, it doesn't say anything at all.
And, I'm sure you have more to say about all this, but the other thing that doesn't make sense to me
Mm.
is that I could understand if some people would be covering up for other people.
Yes,
I could understand Kylie, covering up for her
for
brother.
Justin. Yeah, exactly.
But we have a situation where we have, I mean, how many people were we talking at this party now? 10
8.
people,
Well,
something like that?
there was 8 of them in total. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we have Michael, Jonathan, Justin, Kylie,
Yeah.
James,
Simon
Simon,
and the
2
2 girls.
girls, and then Stuart.
Yeah.
Okay. And it seems to me that, okay, so the 2 17-year-olds know each other.
Mhm.
Okay. But they don't really know anyone else.
No.
You have Kylie, who knows her brother Justin, of course,
Yeah.
but really they don't know anyone else.
No,
Okay.
they obviously
You
know,
have,
or she doesn't know anyone else, but Justin
oh,
obviously knows
Justin
Michael
knows.
and
That's
his
okay.
partner. Yeah.
Okay. Then you have James and Simon who would know Michael.
Yeah, and his boyfriend.
And so the odd man out is Stuart, who knows no one.
Stuart knows no one. That's right.
So if I were to take a string from everyone and say, okay, who would have a reason to cover up for someone else, right?
Yeah.
They all
Yeah.
do in a sense, but there's no
Yeah.
reason for, for the 2 17-year-old girls to cover up for anyone else,
Unless they were frightened.
and unless they're frightened. But then you have, I don't see why a trash man would be frightened. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of him. He's a decent sized guy.
Mhm.
Why would he be frightened? I don't know.
Well, I mean, he was now Michael Barrymore's boyfriend was actually paid £60,000 for his story
Mhm.
by the Sun newspaper. 60,000 he was paid for, and he literally gave away nothing. Nothing.
For 60,000?
60 grand, he gave away nothing. No
Hey,
juicy
you said it was
tidbits,
son?
nothing. It was his
You
it
said it
was
was son?
yeah, I think it was the Sun, yeah.
Hey, son, I will give you an interview about this case for $60,000 and I will tell you exactly the same thing.
Now,
I will do it.
Justin, the dustman,
Okay.
he was paid £30,000 by the Sun for his story.
And what did he say? Nothing,
Guess what?
right?
Nothing. They all stuck to apparently looking into this, they all stuck to the same sort of stories. Nothing adds up. Nobody can tell you what happened to Stuart. Now we know this is the thing that drives me mad about this case. It is something to do with one of those 8 people. One of those 8 people.
Or more than one.
Exactly. So at least one person from the 7 people that were there with Stuart knows, saw, or had some part of what happened to Stuart. He did not get those injuries on his own.
Mhm.
He did not inflict
Yeah.
them himself. He did not put himself into the pool. He might have been in the pool. He might have, he might have been on drugs. He might have been full of alcohol. We know that as fact. But he didn't inflict those injuries on himself. You don't get that. He didn't slip and fall in. They tried to say at one point that he had dive bombed in the water and landed on the thermometer. Come on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, come on. I mean, I was,
Okay, if you do that, you know what happens? Ooh.
yeah, yeah.
Ow. It doesn't go up into your rectum
No,
and you die.
that's right. Now, to me, this just screams cover up. Now, obviously, Michael Barrymore has denied any involvement in anything that happened to Stuart, and that may well be the case. He may well have had nothing to do with what happened to him. He may have come out,
Mhm.
and Stuart may have been in the pool, and he may have been unaware of what happened to him. But somebody at that house knows what happened to him. Somebody was involved.
They
And they're
That's
all
what
just
makes
no, that's what
no
makes no sense whatever.
I have I don't know if you want me to say it now or if you want me to wait,
No, go
but
for
I
it.
have a theory.
Go
I have a
for it.
theory.
Yeah, I'm interested. What's your theory?
My theory is that Michael Barrymore had no direct involvement in the death of Stuart Lubbock.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that he is now covering up himself because he got himself too deep into it,
Mm.
into like, you know, I think that he didn't know what happened at first. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that, I think something happened between Stuart Lubbock and, oh, Kylie. What's Kylie's last name?
Oh, Hewitt. Was it Hewitt? It was Kylie
Oh,
Merritt.
Merritt.
Merritt. Yeah.
Kylie Merritt.
Yeah.
I think something happened between Stuart and Kylie Merritt that she took offense to.
Mhm.
I think she then turns to Justin and say, "Hey, this guy did blah 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 or said blah 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 blah."
Mm.
I think Justin and Kylie were involved in the assault and murder of Stuart Lubbock. Okay,
Okay.
but that doesn't explain what that doesn't explain is why everyone else would be covering
Mm.
for them.
Mm.
I think Barrymore didn't know what happened. He freaked out. He um, takes off.
Mm.
I think he gets to a point where he has denied and knowing anything, which he might not. Where
Mm.
now he can't really go and say, "Well,
Yeah.
this is what I do know."
Yeah, because he'd be
You
proved as
know,
yeah, it would be proved as a liar after all this time.
yeah. And so I don't think the 17-year-old girls have anything knowledge of it.
Mm.
I don't know about Simon and James. Those are the two outliers to me. Like, what would they have known, and would they have would I don't think they would have covered up for Justin and Kylie,
No.
but I think they would have helped cover it for Michael.
Yeah. And this is exactly what confuses me. You've got the two girls that are there on their own. They're 17. So who were they talking to at the party? Who were they spending time with? Surely they weren't just at there on their own. Just,
Mhm.
surely they're going to have been talking. So the two people then you've got Simon and you've got James. Now, I don't know their sexual orientation, but I would have thought
Yeah.
you've got Stuart, you've got Simon, and you've got James, who could all, all straight. You've got two straight girls there. Then you've got
Yep.
Michael's obviously gay. His partner's obviously gay. I'm not sure about Justin, but then you've got Kylie.
Mhm.
So you've got the people that they could have been there involved with, two 17-year-old girls. You've got Justin, you've got Simon, and you've got James and Stuart.
Yeah.
So I just don't
And while
understand how nobody saw anything.
yeah,
No.
someone had to have seen something.
So did they go
I
off in a
think
room
okay.
together? Did Stuart and somebody go in a room together? I mean, surely if this was happening on the poolside,
Mhm.
somebody's going to have seen something.
But even if it happened in a room,
Mm,
someone would have had to seen them dragging him outside the house, right?
exactly. I don't understand. They are definitely hiding something because he can't have got if he went into a room with a girl or a guy even and got those injuries. It would be obvious to other people. I mean, carrying him out and putting him in the pool, or you know, I-
Going back to the pool, him on the bottom pool. You
Mm.
said he did not have a shirt on, but he had pants on.
He had boxer shorts on, so he had like we would call them
He had
pants. So
so
yeah, he had his
boxers.
underwear
Oh, that's
on.
right.
Yeah,
He had underwear on.
yeah,
But when paramedics got there, he was wrapped in the towel that had the blood on it.
yeah. So I think he had been pulled from the swimming pool and put on the side where they had started doing CPR. It's reported that it was the Jonathan that was doing the CPR. So he had started doing CPR on him on the side of the pool, and they had put a towel, maybe down around him or a robe over him or something like that. I don't know, to keep him warm, maybe. I'm not sure.
I guess. I guess that's strange to me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's a totally unexplained. I mean, that's all we've got. That's all we've got on this case. That's the only available, obviously to the public, the only available evidence on this. Now, obviously, like I said to you, they were charged. They were arrested with the murder and rape of Stuart Lubbock, but they were let go because there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to prove that they had anything to do with it. Now, forensically, I don't know. There's not a lot of talk on forensics. I mean, obviously they must have done semen swabs. They must have swabbed the areas to see, and there's no mention of that it was a sexual encounter between two men. It was they've reported that it was an instrument that was used. So,
That yeah, so let's say hypothetically it was Barrymore who
mm,
assaulted
mm,
Stewart. Why would he assault him with a
yeah. I mean, to me, that sort of represents anger. So somebody who's
Yes.
angered by, something, and that is quite a brutal, vicious kind of thing. And when people
And
have been
who and
drinking,
who would do and who would do that? Who would be so brutal, right?
mm, to do that to
Someone
somebody
like
that they've never met before. This is a stranger to them.
someone like a brother, right?
Mm,
I'm telling you.
yeah.
That seems more like
It's very interesting, isn't it? That obviously Justin was actually arrested as well. It's very interesting. I can see where you're going with that.
that is my thought. Okay, I have a question about the photos. So there are some photos of the Barrymore house.
Yes.
How soon were they taken after all this?
I think there's pictures where you can see the pool, you can see the thermometer, and there's like a glass on the side of um the hot tub.
Yeah, I see that.
You can
Yeah,
also
yeah.
see there's also a picture where there's a bloody towel on the
So
floor. So
that
it
must have
must
been
have been
done
very close.
relatively
Yeah, must have been very close.
okay. So there's one glass.
Mm.
There's the thermometer that I see.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that if you were to look at these pictures,
Mm,
and I think this is where the PA comes into play,
mm.
you would have no idea that a party had occurred,
No,
right?
no,
You look outside, there's no glasses on the table outside.
no,
There's
doesn't
I
seem
see
to
that
be.
one glass. I see the one glass
Mm,
on the hot tub. The
mm.
problem with the picture that I see is that obviously it's been that picture is cut,
Yeah,
so they're just highlighting that one portion of the picture. So we can't
yeah.
see what else is happening.
No, you can't really. I mean, they've got aerial pictures. I think what they must have gone up and taken pictures,
Mhm.
whilst it was the next day, whilst it was all fresh in the news. So
Yeah.
I think that they must have taken those aerial photos probably the following day, because
Yeah.
there are bits around on the floor, like paper, like looks like white bits of paper or something, but that's all we've got from what we can
There's
see.
yeah, there's, like, 2 pictures from inside. One is, like, of what do I wanna like the sink, and
Yeah,
there's some glasses in there. So,
yeah,
yeah, okay, that looks like they're at the party, right? But
yeah.
outside that,
No, there's not. I
not
mean, there's not
really.
loads.
Oh,
It
here
doesn't look really
well,
messy
here,
or
let me
anything.
see. I'm kinda looking. Like, here's a better picture. This was from must have been from the time where there is, like, an overhead picture. There's, like, one investigator on the patio making a
Mhm.
call. I guess there is some stuff on the table. There's one I see one seat, which is kind of not 1, 2, 3. There are 4 at least 4 people outside,
Mm.
and I can tell just by how the seats are arranged, how they're kinda pushed back from the table.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, I'm sure you'll agree with me, this just doesn't make sense. It's not. It's obvious that somebody or people are withholding evidence.
What if it what if it was an accident? What if it was I don't know. Like,
I mean, he would
I
be
can't
in he would
imagine. I
be in a
don't
lot of pain,
know.
wouldn't he? I can't imagine that this would be an accident.
Would Barrymore, in his game show background, offer Stewart X a number of dollars to have a and
Yeah.
I'm not
No, I
saying
know
this
what
to
you
be
mean.
funny,
No, I know what you mean.
to be, penetrated,
Maybe.
and then
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Aha, it's funny," and
Mm.
they think they're enjoying it.
Mm.
Something happens, there's
Yeah.
an accident, he ends up dying, and then
Mm.
everyone is then like, "Oh, shit."
That's right. Yeah.
So let's hide this. Let's make it look like a drowning. I don't know. I still like my other idea of
Mm.
Justin assaulting him
Yeah.
because of something that happened between
It
Stuart
makes
and
more
Kylie?
sense, doesn't it? It does make more sense. I mean, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And obviously it's happened at his house, and
Mhm.
he is therefore involved. I mean, now, so the only thing left is to just give you an update on what's happened since this all
Oh,
kicked
okay.
off. Now, in July
And
2015, Barrymore began the process of suing Essex police over his arrest. Now, I know he said that he was wrongfully detained and wrongfully arrested. He said this is because the arresting officer, PC Coots, was not fully aware of the grounds for arrest. I know. And on August 18th, 2017, the High Court in London ruled that Michael Barrymore would be entitled to more than nominal damages against Essex police after being wrongly arrested 10 years previously. The judge didn't decide on the sum to be awarded, but his ruling dealt with the preliminary issue of the level of damages to be awarded. Barrymore wasn't present for this decision, but he valued his claim to be more than £2.4 million.
shut the fuck up.
I know. Essex Police released a statement on the 1st of July in 2019 to announce that the claim for damages had been dropped and that no payment had been made to him. Following an appeal, the Court of Appeals judge determined that Barrymore was entitled to only nominal damages. To I don't know what damages they were. So the last part of this is that on the 4th of February 2020, Essex Police announced that they're offering £20,000 reward for any information leading to a conviction regarding Stuart's death. The cash reward, which is funded by Essex Police and the charity Crime Stoppers, was in response to a Channel 4 documentary called Barrymore, The Body in the Pool. Now, this aired on the 6th of February 2020, and it's on.
Okay.
You can catch up on it on the channel All Four, which is a Channel 4 like catch up program. You know, like you've got the ITV
Ha
catch up on that kind of thing. So
have you watched it?
I did. Yes, I did watch it.
What'd you think?
I think this is the thing. I think obviously something here has happened. The documentary even didn't give very much more information than what I've told you, and I think they have got a very good idea what happened. I think the problem is proving that scenario. I think that they know, I would say that they know the situation. I think that they know the circumstances, but it's actually getting somebody to come forward and say, "Yes, that's what happened.
One of the
Yes,
8
this is what happened."
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the 8 people there needs to
Yeah.
come forward and say, "This is
Yeah.
this is what I saw. This is
Yeah.
what I know."
They're keeping tight-lipped for a reason. There's a reason that they're not saying anything. And I think as time goes on, I mean, we're nearly at the anniversary of Stuart's death 20 years ago. I honestly think that allegiances do change over time. But I would think, to me, it seems like somebody is frightened or the people are frightened. There's a reason they're not coming forward. Those two 17-year-old girls have got no allegiances with Barrymore, Justin,
Mhm.
any of them. They've got no elite. They're not old time friends. They've not got
Mm-mm.
kids together. They're not family. And I just think there's a reason that they're not saying something. Something is
Money.
very, very exactly. Something is very, very
Money.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the bed man living these days?
The bed
You
man.
know?
Yeah.
The bin
The
man.
bin man. Yeah. That's right.
How's he living?
Yeah,
Like,
what's
what's his
his
living situation now?
exactly. He's
I can't imagine a
no.
trash man's making good dime. I
No.
mean, I know they probably get paid decently, but
Well, yeah, it's nothing. I mean, you're looking at like £10 an hour.
yeah,
It's
is he
not it's
driving around a
not
Ferrari now?
well. I just think that there's a reason they're keeping quiet. There's a reason that we know for a fact that it involved Stuart and one of those 7 people, if not more, but we know it was at least one of those 7 people. And those people were all in the same house. Something's gone amiss. But to this day, we still don't know what's going on. And they have relaunched this. Like I said, they've relaunched this. There is a hashtag that is Justice for Stuart. Something needs to be done. Somebody needs to come forward because this is Stuart's mum has passed away. since, Stuart's mum's passed away. His dad's very ill. His dad's an elderly man now. He lives in a care home, and he's just literally tirelessly campaigned. I mean, Stuart's got 2 children. Surely there's got to be something deep in your gut. If you know something, you should know you've got to come forward, because this is just, it's not right.
No,
It
no.
makes me really mad, because you should just own up. You should come forward and you should say something, because this poor guy and his poor family, they need to know what happened.
I'm sticking with Kylie and Justin.
I must admit, I didn't actually think of that scenario, but the more I think about it, the more plausible that is, because
Mhm.
siblings have got a reason to stick up for one another. A 17-year-old girl has got no allegiances with strangers.
Yeah. I think even if it wasn't between, Stuart and Kylie,
Mm.
or I think Stuart angered someone
Yeah,
and had to
somehow. Yeah,
angered them to the point where they were going to physically assault them.
that's right. Yeah. You don't do that to
So,
somebody to be nice, do you? So obviously there's
no.
some anger in there.
Mm.
And
Yeah, and when I think of what would take someone to be that angry,
mm,
doing something to a
that's
sibling
horrific.
for
Yeah,
comes to the forefront.
that's right. I mean, yeah, could he have caught in with his sister? Could he have gone mental because he was also drinking? I don't even know if the rest of the people at the party were tested for drinking and drugs, because there isn't anything,
Yeah.
obviously they're not going to release everything to the public, because
Mhm.
they're just not going to. But yeah, I just find this really infuriating, because I just feel like I feel for Stuart's family. I feel that they just need,
Yeah.
especially, I mean, his dad, if you watch his dad in the documentary, you just want to give the guy some answers. You just want to, he's an elderly guy. He's getting on. He's not very well. It would be nice for him to know what happened to his son before anything happens to him.
And, uh, there should be more known about what occurred that evening. Even if someone doesn't wanna come forward and say, "Oh, this is who did what."
Mm,
The fact that everyone's keeping tight-lipped about what actually occurred
mm,
is tough, right? Everyone's
yeah.
like, "Oh, it was just a chill night. We're just hanging out."
Mm,
No, I mean, not with that amount of drugs. It's not a
no.
you're not doing coke and you're not on ecstasy just
Mm.
having
A chilled night, that's right. And that's
chilled
what
night,
makes me
yeah.
wonder, as if obviously if he did anger somebody there, when somebody is on drugs like that, it's a
Mhm.
it's a kind of personality altering drug, isn't it? Cocaine and MDMA, they are accelerants, and they do make people do crazy things. And if they're all on it, or a few of them are on it, then who knows what it would take to set somebody off to be really, really angry.
Yeah.
It could be the tiniest thing. It could be something really, really non, it could be something really simple, and it's just ended in a complete catastrophe.
All I know is Barrymore was not giving a tour of the house at whatever time it was.
And this is the thing this is the thing that doesn't make sense. There are lies that have been proven to be lies in this.
Yeah.
He may not be responsible directly for Stuart's death, possibly, but you're not telling me he doesn't know anything. If you found nobody, the police wasn't called for an
Is he
hour
afraid of
after.
liability?
Well, maybe, the police weren't called for an hour after Stuart was found. What the hell was going on in that hour?
Mhm.
What did they get rid of? What? An hour's a long time.
Well, they got rid of drugs.
I would
That's
think.
for damn sure.
Well, obviously. So they're obviously panicking, and I just find that, I find it very, very suspicious.
Is it would it be financially beneficial for Michael Barrymore to pay off people that were at the party than to face possible liability in a death of someone?
Well, yeah, I would think so. I don't know where I would assure I would be positive that they would have got a forensic accountant in to look into the financial
Are
situation of
you
this.
sure they would? Are
Well,
you
now they
sure?
would have done. They would have gone back now, surely. Now that it's
You would
suspected,
hope.
at the time, probably not. But as soon as this became a suspected murder, surely they would have. Well, I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? You just don't know. Did they
Mhm.
have that in mind at the time? Ha- I don't. I really don't know. I really don't know. But
Well,
they're keeping it
that
quiet for
goes
a
back.
reason.
I mean, going back to our Breckenridge case, I
Mm,
mean, I don't know if we talked about this in any of the episodes or anything, but there were things that we asked
yeah.
the investigator, Charlie McCormick,
Yeah.
and they were like, "No, that was never been looked into."
Mm, yeah.
So is it
Yeah.
possible that Essex police
Yeah.
haven't looked into the financials? If there's any financial, back and forth between any of these
Yeah,
people?
it's possible, isn't it? They've already admitted that they didn't, that it wasn't handled correctly at the very beginning. Now I think they're doing everything in their power to find out what went on. But it's difficult, isn't it? If you're carrying out investigations after the fact and after things have been removed and
Mhm.
after a crime scene has been walked over, people have been let in, people have been let out. I mean, it's obviously it wasn't handled very well in the very beginning. I'm not saying that they are incompetent because obviously they are doing the best that they can.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, it's
It's tough when you have
frustrating.
a group of people that are they're not cooperating.
Yeah. And
Even if they say, "Oh, we are," they're not cooperating, right?
no, they're holding back. Obviously, they're holding back information.
Yeah.
You're not telling me you've got 7 people in a house and nobody knows what's going on. You're not going to be spread out. I mean, possibly people are, it happens at parties when people are, full of alcohol and stuff. People get up to all sorts of things. But surely you would see a couple going off together, or you would notice that they weren't around, or,
Mhm.
you're not going to be
Yeah.
blind. They're not all just going to be sitting there looking at the floor, are they? They're going to know something's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think something happened. I think Michael Barrymore I think he looks at it as he'd rather pay off a few, thousands of dollars than
Mm.
possible millions of dollars for being liable in someone's death.
Yeah. I don't know. And hopefully, we'll be able to give you an update on this in the future. And now that the case has been reopened, hopefully, we will be able to give an update as to what's going on and what the update is, as and when we know what's happening. But at the moment,
Hopefully we don't get sued by Michael Barrymore.
for what?
I don't know. Maybe he's gonna sue me.
For what? What
Who
have you
knows?
done?
I'm throwing accusations at him. If he can sue the police for
Mm,
arresting him, he can sure as hell sue me, right?
yeah. The thing is, I just think it's when you're a high profile. We've done a few high profile cases where the person is
Yeah.
very well known and your life is kind of in the media anyway, and then for something like this where you've got strangers involved with the high profile person, like you said,
Mhm.
you can understand with the brother and sister sticking together, you can understand with the boyfriends sticking together. When you've got complete strangers that have got no they've got no reason to stick, to stick
Yeah.
with each other or stick up for somebody,
Exactly.
and especially over time, to over 20 years,
It's crazy.
nothing really has come out any different, and there must be a reason for that. It makes me sad. It does. It makes me sad. It's a crazy case, and if you are British, you probably know of this case. But I would be interested to see what your thoughts are on this. So you can always send us messages on Instagram or on Twitter or wherever you want to send us a message. We've got every social. You can message us on any social you like.
Yeah.
And yeah, just tell us what you think. What do you think happened? Is there anything, like I said to you, we've got Stuart's sister is on Instagram, and there is no, it's not on Instagram, sorry, on Twitter. And there is like a hashtag, I can't even say the words, hashtag, which is justice, then the number 4, and then Stuart. And she, on her Twitter page, she talks quite a lot about the case. She talks quite a lot about things that have happened. She puts pictures on of Stuart and her and their wedding and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
there's a post that's pinned to the top of her page, and it says, Essex police have admitted their mistakes in the past regarding Stuart's passing at Michael Barrymore's home. But as I get regular updates from them, I feel assured that we will get justice for Stuart. So there's no need for anyone to gossip about the police not doing anything. And she's put the hashtag positive vibes. And I
Oh,
believe,
well, that's good.
I think this is a really good thing. And it would be good to get the justice for Stuart and to find out what happened to him. And yeah, positive news. Who knows what's happening behind the scenes with the police? Who knows?
Yep, absolutely. Very good, Cherry. I enjoyed this one a lot.
Yeah, it's a very interesting case. And I hope that we do get, I hope I'll be able to give you an update in, 6
Yeah,
months' time to say that we actually know what's happened and Stuart's family know what happened now. Not that it's going to make any difference in, the fact that they've lost him. It's not going to bring him back, but at least it will give, there'll be somebody responsible and there'll be somebody to kind of,
they will have answers.
yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. So that is this week's case for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was, like I said, I really enjoyed this one.
No problem.
I did not know about it beforehand. I know you told me about it, but we decided that I was not going to look anything up before this. So
Yes, which is unusual because we usually do discuss cases before we do them. But I would just want, because obviously you're not from here, you don't know who Michael Barrymore is. You've got no kind of previous knowledge of him. It's
yeah,
just interesting to see a completely outsider's view on this, to see
yeah.
what you thought. So it's interesting.
Still strange. I still have a lot of questions, but I think I have my mind made up,
Yeah.
or not maybe not 100%, but I think I have the most in my head the most reasonable
Yeah, the most plausible
possibility.
explanation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. If I'm honest with you, I really don't know. Usually I've sort of made up my mind on something like this. I usually think to myself, right, I know I can see what happened, or I can see the most plausible way through. But with this one, I really just don't, I'm baffled completely by this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
But I must
I
admit,
know why.
yours is the most plausible that actually I've thought of, so, or I've understand. So yeah, that was interesting,
I
very
mean,
interesting.
and I think nothing else really makes sense to me at this time. I don't. It just doesn't. I don't know.
And it's difficult because there isn't a lot of resources for this. There aren't sort of, you can't, they're not talk, they won't talk. They've all declined to talk on the documentary that I told you about. They all declined to be part of it. Not one of them wanted to say anything, which I also
In
think
in
is
a lot
strange.
in a lot of the the things that we can reference.
Mm.
Problem is, this is a tabloid heavy story, right?
Very,
So there's
very,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
tabloids involved and a
very,
lot of tabloid reporting, which you have to take some of it with a grain of salt.
yes, yeah.
Um, they're in the business to sell papers,
Of
right?
course,
And they're gonna,
sensationalize everything.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm. And so, yeah, it is difficult. But I just find that very strange that this documentary came out on Channel 4 last year, but not one of the people involved in the case wanted to put their side of the story across. Not one person out of all of those
Why
7
not?
people, none of them wanted to talk. I mean,
Not even the 17-year-olds.
no, no one. No, they all declined it. It says it at the end of the documentary. They all declined. And the other thing that I find interesting is not even, I mean, Barrymore had spoken to various different news outlets. He'd been on various different breakfast TVs, and he'd been on over the years he had talked about this and had come not come forward exactly, but it kind of coincided with other things. He was on like Dancing on Ice last year, and that was about it. He hasn't really been seen in the public eye very much at all, which I think will change now, obviously, that this is being opened again. But he had been interviewed by various different places, and he just said like he wanted just justice for Stuart's family. He wanted to find out what happened. He doesn't believe that the injuries happened at his house. And then afterwards he says, well, if they did, then I have no knowledge of it. And in all this time, in 20 years, no one other than the 2 people that were paid, other than Justin and Jonathan, have said anything in the press. And they didn't say anything that the press didn't already know. I just find that strange. That's a strange thing. Usually, people
Mhm.
would be interviewed, or would, if you've got nothing to hide, they would normally come forward. But why haven't they? Why have they all denied to put their story across? There must be a reason.
That's very weird.
Mm, very.
Hmm.
So yeah, that is the case of Stuart Lubbock, and we will be back next week with another case. And for now, be nice. Thank you for joining us.
And bye.